Many of you know from listening to these easy right-sizing conversations every Sunday morning on KFOR FM 103.3 1240 AM with Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS, that Janine is an author. Have a copy of her book right here, Ready to Right Size, a step-by-step guide to your right-sizing journey for older adults and their loved ones. It's the perfect practical tips text. Janine, good morning.
Good morning, Dale. Hello.
Here's where I'm going with all this. The fact that authors often tap into other authors. So they know as much as possible about their profession or their craft. And that's where we're starting today's conversation on easy right-sizing. The book that we're referring to, in addition to Janine's, is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. It's written by Marie Kondo. So, Janine, what has drawn you to this book?
Oh, Dale, I love this book. It's a worldwide phenomenon. It's a bestseller. I'm sure many of our listeners have heard of it. Marie Kondo, she's a Japanese writer, and she is the gal that talks about whether or not an item sparks joy. Okay, that was kind of one of her ideas. And she has got a couple little organizing books, and they're just short little books, and I tell you, I read them every year. And the way I know that I am doing the right thing with my life is that I read about and think about and write about decluttering and organizing all the time. And it's just one of my hobbies, really. And I would do it, I think, even if it wasn't my job. So I love reading other organizing books. And today I thought it would be useful and helpful to talk about one of the tips that Marie Kondo suggests in her book, because it's all about, different tactics work for different people, I think. And so I'm all about sharing as many different tactics and approaches as we can so that our listeners can figure out what works best for them.
And you have drawn upon a certain category, sort by category, not by room. And as I read through your talking points, it made perfect sense. I hadn't thought of it, but once it's brought to my attention, it makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. This is something that Marie Kondo really encourages her clients to do, is instead of sorting by room, cleaning out the kitchen and then cleaning out your bedroom and then cleaning out the basement, she suggests that you sort by category. And she actually has a Netflix special. I don't know if any of our readers have, or any of our listeners have seen it, but it makes for good television, this kind of a tactic. She encourages her clients to put all of their books in one place, and then they sort through them, or all of their clothing in one place. They make a huge pile, and then you sort through them. But I tell you, the reason why sorting by category rather than room can really be effective is because it helps you understand just how much stuff you have in a certain category. And let me explain. So if you have, let's, for example, take art supplies. If you have art supplies, some art supplies are in your office, and some art supplies are in the basement, and some art supplies are in the kids' rooms, and some, are maybe even up in your bedroom. You're not sure exactly how much art supplies you have in your home. And it also is more difficult for you to find those art supplies, a particular art supply that you're trying to locate in your house, because they're kind of spread out all over the place. So if you sort by category rather than room, it helps you to identify how much of a certain item you have. And then it also, once you're done sorting and you just put it away, it helps you being able to locate that item a lot easier going forward.
See, that makes perfect sense. Now, for me, I'm a jeans and T-shirt guy, okay? So I've got some jeans hanging up. They're better quality jeans. I have
your fancy jeans, right?
Fancy jeans, and they're not even in my main closet because I don't wear them that often. Therefore, I don't want them to really clutter up the things that I really do want to. So I have my fancy jeans in some other closet. Then I have some nicer t-shirts that I don't want to get wrinkled. Some that I wear often are in one. It's about 3 closets, Janine. I got to really confess to you, it's about 3 closets worth of jeans and t-shirts for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I tell you, we see that all the time. We see people, our clients, who have, their clothes in their main bedroom, and then maybe they've got a cedar closet in the basement that has some things, and then maybe there's some overflow in the guest bedroom down the hallway. And there again, when your things are spread out, it's easy to accumulate more because you don't really see the exact volume of what it is that you have. And when you're looking, like I said, when you're looking for a particular clothing item, you're not exactly sure where to look because they're scattered throughout 3 different places in your home. So this tactic can really apply to pretty much any kind of a possession in your home. I mean, when you are thinking about sorting by category rather than room, I want you to pick whatever categories in your household that you feel like you've got too much stuff, whether that's towels or sheets or shoes or pants or sweaters. Maybe it's screwdrivers, maybe it's cleaning supplies, spatulas, magazines, electronics, toys. Any of these items that you have spread throughout your house, chances are you have no idea the actual quantity that you have, and you probably have way more than you really need. So my tip for everyone listening is to really give this tactic a try. Pick one of those items, one of those categories, and then gather all those things in one place, and then sort through them and decide what is a reasonable number of, okay, in your instance, Dale, what's a reasonable number of T-shirts to have, okay? And I've talked on this show before about an exercise I call the power of counting. Go ahead and utilize that power of counting. Dale, if you were to put all of your T-shirts from all over the house in one pile, how many T-shirts do you think you'd have?
Oh, boy. Maybe 4 dozen.
Okay, well, there you go. All right.
Yeah.
It's a little shocking when you think about it that way. And you think, okay, I could go X number of months without repeating a T-shirt. And so, and again, this is not me judging. This is you get to decide what an appropriate number of T-shirts is for you to have in your home. And that goes for anyone else, too. If for art supplies, our earlier example, you get to decide what is an appropriate amount of art supplies. But when you put all your art supplies in one pile and you realize you have 200 markers, maybe you realize that you don't need 200 markers. Maybe you can keep 12 markers and give the rest to a local daycare center, right? So it's all about being a good steward of your stuff and letting go of the excess, keeping what you need, and then spreading that wealth to others in our community. We've talked before about the importance of donating. Your excess could be someone else's only item, okay? So there might be people in our community who would love some of your T-shirts, Dale, and maybe if some of your T-shirts aren't getting worn because you have so many of them. Mm-hmm. Same thing with art supplies, sewing supplies, tools. If you have 37 screwdrivers in your garage and some in your basement and some in your attic, think about keeping, I don't know how many screwdrivers a man needs. I mean, that's not my category of items that I struggle with, but maybe 4 or 5, and then let the rest go. So I would love for all of our listeners to really look around their house and think to themselves, what categories of items do I tend to accumulate? Maybe it's books, maybe it's makeup, maybe it's spices in your kitchen. I can't tell you all the times that we've worked with a client and we open up a cupboard and there are just bottles and bottles and bottles of spices and tons of duplicates and some that are old and outdated. So I encourage everyone to try this tactic of sorting by category rather than room. It can really be a lot less overwhelming for people when they think about just sorting by one category at a time.
I have too many tools. That's another one. You mentioned tools.
Okay.
And I have been a benefactor of someone else being generous and having given their tools away. I have a level. I have some other tools that I have picked up at auction or at a Goodwill store or something along those lines. And so I've been a beneficiary of someone else's generosity. So it makes perfect sense. Give away half of my screwdrivers and half of my wrenches and let someone else benefit. It's my understanding that towels and sheets are a couple of areas that tend to multiply like rabbits around the house.
They do, because you see some on sale, you see a set on sale, and you tend to pick up some new ones, and then you always, I think it's like tools too. I don't know, for women it's sheets and towels. You tend to hold on to the old ones because you think, well, someday we could use them. If we ever have a leak in the basement, we're going to need a bunch of extra towels, or we can use them on the dog or whatever. And a little bit of that is fine, but again, utilize the power of counting and really have an honest conversation with yourself. How many towels do I need to keep for rags, and how many towels do I need to keep in the bathroom for bathing and showering? So it is all about really giving yourself a reality check, keeping what you really need, and then letting the rest go so that other people can make use of it. Another benefit of sorting by category rather than room is when you come face to face with how much of a particular item you have, that helps you when you are in the store looking and shopping, or when you're at Goodwill or at a garage sale or at an auction, and you think to yourself, oh, that's a really good deal on those tools, or that's a really good deal on those sheets. But if you have done this, you know in your head, now wait a minute, I have 17 sets of towels in my house, and there are 2 people who live in that house. It doesn't matter if this is a really good deal on these new towels. I probably don't need them. It saves you money, and then it also saves you space by not cluttering up your space with new items in a category that you really don't need.
Janine, I want to give you just a few moments to let listeners know how you have adapted, how Changing Spaces SRS has adapted to creating a comfort level for clients given the pandemic.
Sure, yeah. So, the services that we offer at Changing Spaces is we help seniors move, and then we also organize and run estate sales. So we are still doing some moves, and we're starting to do a few more as things open up a little bit more. And our staff members, of course, because we are working with seniors who are a vulnerable population, they're always masking up. They're always washing their hands and using hand sanitizer frequently while we're working with a client. And we're certainly trying to keep our distance from the client. Our move services are designed so that the client doesn't need to do anything. They just sit and point. So they get to make the decisions, and we do all of the work. So it is nice. We can give them a comfortable place to sit, maybe on the other side of the room. And if we are helping them sort through items on a bookshelf, we can just hold up the item to them, and they can say yes or no. Yes, I'm keeping it. No, I'm not. And then we'll do all the packing. We manage the move, and then we get them all unpacked in the new place as well. So definitely we're taking all of the necessary precautions to keep our clients safe and our staff members safe as well. For our estate sales, many of our listeners may be familiar with our online auctions. We have kind of switched our in-person estate sales, many of them, to an online auction platform where people can bid online rather than coming actually to the estate sale. And then we do have a pickup time for people who have won auction items. And there again, we do encourage people to wear masks when they're coming to pick up their items, and our staff members are wearing masks. And we're just trying our best to keep our distance from one another and certainly keep everyone as safe as possible.
Join us every Sunday morning. Janine Bryant of Changing Spaces SRS, always with good advice on easy right sizing. We'll talk again next week.